I got an invitation to do Tucker Carlson's show tonight, and there's no way I'll go on his show for a number of reasons. But first, let me state that his insistence that the West was provoking war with Putin, his spreading lies about biolabs, and his continued spewing of conspiracy theories are nothing but complete evil. His show is full of Russian propaganda and not news. And I will not validate his show by making an appearance. I do not want to be associated with it in any way. And we all know what would happen, and we all know what the goal is. We know the interview would be promoted to get more viewers, to make more money, to further empower his garbage. And let's talk tactics. When Tucker interviews someone in a hostile way, he interrupts and laughs when he's been caught in a lie. And after the segment's over, he brings on another guest to try to discredit any statement made by the prior guest without counter. He's not interested in conversations. He's only interested in himself. And at the end of the day, he'll continue to use his platform to deceive his all too trusting viewers and to further his own sense of power. The situation in Ukraine is serious and the outlook is dire. And this moment requires serious conversation and decisive action, not a self-serving showboat clamoring for more clicks tonight. So rather than validate his propaganda programming, I'm going to use my effort to support the Ukrainian people. So if you're interested in joining me, please consider donating to the Stand With Ukraine Fund. It's at countryfirst.com, country1st.com. And 100% of the money raised will go to humanitarian aid for those still in Ukraine and for those who become refugees. Tucker has made it clear he stands with Putin and his war against freedom. I stand with Ukraine, democracy, and the men and women willing to fight and die for their country. Finally, Sophia and I want to offer our prayers for Benjamin Hall, a Fox News reporter injured in Ukraine. The job they do is dangerous and appreciated. This makes Tucker's position all the more disgusting.
If you were looking to turn an invite onto Tucker Carlson's show into a win for everyone, it's to do exactly this. To use your own platform to expose him for the pro-Putin propagandist that he is, refuse to give him the showdown that he's looking for, and then be done with it. But don't worry, I'm sure Tucker Carlson will find someone else to shriek laugh over while carrying water for a warmongering tyrant. The fact is that Tucker is desperate to claw back whatever validation he can find after so blatantly shilling for Vladimir Putin. He had assumed that so long as Putin's tyrannical behavior flew just beneath the radar and out of the American mainstream, that he could keep doing his bidding. But he miscalculated, considering Putin then revealed himself to the entire world to be a sadistic despot. At which point Tucker was left looking like a fool, in that he'd spent weeks saying stuff like this.
But is there another reason we should side with Ukraine over Russia? Russia is a much more significant country by every measure. Why is it disloyal to side with Russia, but loyal to side with Ukraine? They're both foreign countries that don't care anything about the United States. China, which is the actual threat. Why would we take Ukraine's side? Why wouldn't we be on Russia's side? I'm totally confused. So much. Has Putin ever called me a racist? Has he threatened to get me fired for disagreeing with him? Has he shipped every middle-class job in my town to Russia? I should say, for the record, I'm totally opposed to these sanctions, and I don't think that we should be at war with Russia. And I think we should probably take the side of Russia if we have to choose between Russia and Ukraine. That is my view. But Ukraine and Russia. And I'm serious. Like, why do I care? Tell you why. And why shouldn't I root for Russia, which I am?
And so now, Tucker's looking everywhere he can for any proof whatsoever to validate his claims that Ukraine is bad, to try and make Russia look better by comparison, to try and somehow validate his earlier shilling for Putin. He even repeated Russian propaganda that there were secret biolabs in Ukraine, which of course Putin would use as a false flag to justify his own use of chemical weapons, just like the Russians did in Syria in support of the Assad regime, just like they did against Alexander Litvinenko, a former Russian intelligence official who defected to the West, who drank polonium-laced tea, and just like they did when Putin's opposition leader, Alexei Navalny, just so happened to get poisoned with a nerve agent and nearly died. And yet, despite the Kremlin's long and obvious history using chemical weapons, and prefacing the use of those weapons by accusing the other side of using them, still Tucker Carlson repeated those claims and helped prop up that blatantly false conspiracy theory. And then, like clockwork, Tucker's justification shows up the next day on Russian pro-Kremlin television, and just like that, Putin's false flag is validated. So if and when Russia uses chemical weapons against the people of Ukraine, you'll have Tucker Carlson to thank for giving him the cover to do so. And look, the simple fact is that Tucker's not supporting Putin in spite of these things, he's supporting Putin because of these things. Tucker getting caught or exposed for doing these things isn't going to cause him to change course, because all of this is being done on purpose. This is who Tucker Carlson is. He wants ethno-nationalism. He supports fascism. The point of me highlighting these things isn't to shame Tucker Carlson into changing his mind. He won't. The point is to hopefully show the people who watch him, the people who Adam Kinzinger rightfully called all too trusting, that what he's doing isn't normal. It's not mainstream. It's not the news they don't want you to see. It's not what you get when you ask the real questions. It is ethno-nationalistic, fascistic, pro-Putin propaganda. It's being done in service of a guy who bombed a children's hospital and a maternity ward. This isn't a question of political affiliation. Kinzinger's a Republican. This is a question of whether you support democracy or not. Tucker Carlson doesn't. If you don't either, then Tucker's your guy. But if you do, then I hope you know that watching Tucker isn't bolstering your conservative credentials, it is destroying them. To see more videos like this, click the subscribe button right here on this screen. And if you want to support my work, subscribe to my podcast, No Lie with Brian Tyler Cohen. I cover the most important stories each week, and my guest is always one of the top political figures, including Vice President Kamala Harris, Jen Psaki, Elizabeth Warren, Pete Buttigieg, Nancy Pelosi, Katie Porter, Cory Booker, and so many more. The podcast link is also right here on this screen, so give it a listen and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts.